going on, guys? I just want to share with you guys a few things that I think today in the auto industry are wrong or could be improved. So the first thing that comes to mind for me when we talk about the auto industry as a whole is a lot of these manufacturers are making awesome cars. If you think of the wave of the Chargers, the Challengers, the Mustangs, the Camaros, Supras, the Z, I mean, they've brought back some legendary cars and they're still continuing to do so. I think it's going to start ramping down a little bit as the electric movement catches on. But one thing that I think just absolutely kills car sales are two things. Number one, it's availability. And then number two, it's having the users be able to actually drive and test these cars. If you want to go test drive a new Supra, a new Camaro, a new Challenger, a new Charger, good luck. And a lot of this is problematic due to COVID. I just don't understand why in today's environment, those dealerships or the manufacturers just can't send one car for that dealership to have. Not necessarily to sell, but to let people try their product, because all these new cars that are coming out, you have to wait months and months and months and months to get them. And chances are some of you probably haven't even test drove one or sat in one or played around with it. And I just think that that's something that is hurting auto sales, is once people have the opportunity to drive one of these cars, they're not a necessity, they're a want. And you have to create that want and that appeal with your buyers. And so in today's auto industry, I think what's lacking is the dealers just having a car on site. They should have maybe some of the more popular models, right? But just a car that can be test drove, that can just sit there. And hey, maybe it might just be, I realize not every store can get an allocation for that, but make sure in the state that you're in, or the city, if there's 10 Chevy dealerships, make sure there's at least 2 or 3 Camaros that are always at a certain dealership, and maybe you could rotate it between the dealerships, so that way they don't feel like they're getting unfair treatment from the other dealerships. But I think that's something that's definitely hurting the auto industry. Obviously COVID has completely impacted that, but I just think the ability to try out cars and test drive them is kind of a mistake. I look back to when I was growing up golfing, and I know this doesn't quite relate, but when I wanted to buy a new driver in the pro shop, you could demo one. Nowadays, you really can't do that. That's why you have PJ Superstore, that's why you have Uinta, that's why you have other places where you can kind of test drive that, and you can look at data, you can play around with it. I just think there has to be a better process for people to be able to try these cars, because once you try them, that want all of a sudden becomes a need, because you've been in the car, you have to have it, you need to have it. And I think that is something that could be very impactful if manufacturers found out a way to accomplish that. Another thing that's hurting the auto industry right now, and I guess it's not hurting, and I am going to say we are to blame, and I'm also going to say the manufacturers, or the dealerships are to blame, not the manufacturers. And sorry, it's really bright. But dealerships right now, the markets that they're charging, guys, stop paying for them. If you stop paying for them, they will stop charging them. But as I've looked at different cars, BRZs, GR86s, Supras, Challengers, Chargers, whatever the car is out there, some dealerships are charging 10, 15, 20, 30. I mean, it is nuts, guys, what they are charging the markup for on these cars. And do you know why they continue to charge it? Well, first off, they don't have the inventory and they need to try and make the profits. But second off, they are, there's my daughter falling asleep. You okay, sweetie? Okay, you fall asleep, okay? But really, when it comes down to it, these manufacturers are going to continue to charge markups as long as we are willing to pay them. Stop paying them. Stick it to the dealers. When they want to get you for dealer added accessories, don't budge. Don't buy cars that have markups. And if we all can take that stance together, it'll free up people to be able to spend these cars. Because what happens if you spend 5-10 grand on a markup for a car, and let's say the auto industry reverts back to what it was, where you could get 5, 10, 12 grand off a car, you're going to be so upside down in that car that you're going to be wrapping negative equity in that car for a while, or you'll just have to sit on it until you pay it off, but you've grossly overpaid for the car. So guys, those are the things in my opinion that are hurting the auto industry today. Let me know if you guys have anything else that you think is kind of plaguing or hurting the industry. Leave a comment below. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts, but together, you know, I still think we can find cars out there. It'll be very interesting to see what the market looks like for the cars that you and I like once they stop making them. Is it going to go through the roof? Is it going to decline? Is the government going to come out and say, you have to drive an electric car by this date, or if your car doesn't get above this many miles per gallon, we are going to tax you? I don't think we're too far off, especially with this administration, in my opinion. And this next point that I want to talk on, obviously, probably controversial, and this is just my opinion. The electric movement, in my opinion, is hurting the auto industry. And it's hurting the auto industry in a certain sense. It's hurting the auto industry for certain people. What's interesting is if you go to Dodge's website, and I know this because I've come close to ordering this car in the past, you used to be able to get a Dodge Challenger Hellcat in a manual. It was non-wide body, which I kind of like the non-wide bodies in the Challengers a little bit, and now you can't order those. Just pure automatic. They're charging more. That car at one point in time, like the MSRP was around like 55 grand for that car. Now I think with an automatic, I think it's, you know, well into the 60s, maybe early kind of 70s. But I know that car, you know, about 6, 7, 8 months ago was about 61,000, depending on how you optioned it out. But what's interesting is I have a hard time accepting that these auto manufacturers, in my opinion, are stopping to make the enthusiast type cars. Now, I still think we have a really strong run coming up of a lot of different awesome cars coming out. The Acura Integra, I'm not excited about, but I think they're making it in a manual. If the Supers get a manual, that's cool. The Nissan Z, that's cool. The Honda Type R coming out. But what you're seeing, I think you're going to see Chevy take another final run at making a big push here in the next 2 years, and then gone, the V8. And you know, you're seeing it with a lot of other manufacturers. I was kind of disappointed that Dodge did that. What's interesting within the Super Bowl, if you looked at the car commercials, I can recall one car commercial, and it was for the Nissan Z, that wasn't about electric cars. And we don't have the infrastructure in place. These manufacturers are getting taxes put on them. They're getting forced to be able to produce electric cars. And I'm not against electric cars. I'm against not having the choice to be able to do things. And the way our country is being ran, like, I feel like the EPA and everybody has picked on electric vehicles, or, you know, internal combustion vehicles is the problem of all pollution. I saw an article the other day that said a consumer's gas stove can put out as much emissions as 500,000 cars. If you think about that, that's crazy. What I don't like is, why are we forcing a segment or auto manufacturers to make completely just all electric cars? If you look at Dodge, they've made comments that, hey, this model's not going to work for everybody. You know, if you ask Dodge what Dodge truly wanted to do, they want to continue with what they've made, you know. And I'm still waiting for a manufacturer just to go, nah, electric, that's not for us. We're going to continue to go down this route. But they're kind of being forced down that path, and I just don't like that's happening. Now, granted, I know us auto enthusiasts, manual transmissions, V8s, other cars, there's a different generation, and they want different things. You know, they want their car to make their coffee for them. They want their Netflix to be able to be on here while they're driving, or the car's driving for itself. But I think there's a place for all of it. I'd like to see the best of both worlds between electric, gas, get the torque, find a way to still make maybe manuals, maybe find a way to get that sound, combine the best of both worlds and make an animal of a car. But I don't feel it's going that route. And you can see by the Super Bowl ads, everybody, we're electric, we're electric, we're going electric, we're going electric. Here's my problem with a lot of these manufacturers all of a sudden going electric. If you're going to buy an electric car, buy a Tesla. Why? Because they have tested that out. They have tried it. They have fixed a lot of stuff that they've had. Will I be in line to buy Dodge's new electric muscle car? No. If I were, give me 3, 4, 5 years, let them work out the issues and the kinks. But these guys all of a sudden are just turning on the switch to make electric cars. You know, I would give them some time. Now, I know Dodge has been doing it in the Jeep, and they've had some time at it, but at the end of the day, I honestly think that it's hurting the auto industry, and it's really killing off a segment that is really awesome, and it's really cool to be able to own these manual cars. Now, we can still buy them. You still have choice. You can buy older cars, but the problem is they're going to stop making these types of cars, and so you're going to be forced to buy older cars, or maybe this whole electric thing doesn't catch on and maybe we kind of revert to a happy medium, which is what I'm hoping for. But I think that is something that is kind of plaguing the car industry right now, and I don't like how it's going.